A young boy is the target of an assassination. It doesn't take long before they find out that he can read minds. It's a race against time as the agents try to use this poor child to protect their work on the X-Files,
while the Syndicate tries to gain the upper hand with him as well. Stellar adults all around.
This is not happening.
Using a weapon registered to a U.S. intelligence agency, the shooter fired one kill shot at Anatol Klebanow before being captured without incident a short distance from the scene. No motive has been established, nor has the shooter offered up a statement or accomplice.
Please continue.
The trajectory of the kill shot suggests the shooter acted alone, but we cannot yet rule out an accomplice or conspiracy. A single bullet was fired from a catwalk at a steep angle, striking the target just right of the solar plexus.
Well, I'm sorry, can you rewind the tape? Please, I'll tell you where. Just take it back.
Let me get through this. If you have any questions, we can talk later.
I don't have any questions, no. I just think you're wrong.
Mulder, what are you doing?
I don't think the Russian was the target. I think it was his opponent.
His opponent, Agent Mulder, was a 12-year-old boy.
And a good chess player. Here, let me show you his best move if you just take it back. Okay, stop it there. Look what the kid does right here, right before the kill shot. Play. You see what he does? He just pushes back. You see that?
He's just completed a checkmate. He's pushing back because the game's over.
No, you described a steep trajectory for the kill shot. If the kid doesn't push back at that precise moment, he catches the bullet in the back of the neck, not the Russian.
Can we move on here?
I think Agent Mulder is right. Looks like the boy sensed the shooter precognitively. If you rewind the tape, you'll see it.
There's no way. It's impossible.
Let's rewind the tape so we can all see for ourselves.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Mike.
This is the end, my friend. My only friend, the end. Gonna be Jim Morrison all night tonight.
Jim Morrison. All right, then. Here we are. It is the end, no pun intended, of Season 5. If you're new to the show, it is called The End because this was originally supposed to be the last episode, and they were going to continue the show through the movies, through the talkies, the big pictures. As you may or may not know, things changed.
Yeah, the movie didn't sell so well.
That's all right, though, in my opinion. I don't know. Initial thoughts. Great.
Well,
okay, so
I think it
moving on.
No, you can't rush off. So the end also refers to the fact that it's the end of shooting in Vancouver, because they take it to on the road. They try their luck down in the States where people love each other, and they really do have a love letter to Vancouver in this show. They apparently, for the opening sequence, they filled that stadium with 27,000 raving X-Files fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a legitimate shot, ladies and gentlemen. Rogers Stadium, I believe.
Yep.
I would have loved to have been there. That would have been so cool. If only for this scene, oh, there I am. No, that's not me. But I mean, just pretending you could say that in a crowd of thousands. I think it's awesome. And this is that escalation I was talking about earlier on in the season of set pieces and locations for Season 5. This is the culmination of that. And it's so
it definitely has taken it to another level. But again, this is a 20 episode season compared to 24 in Season 1. So I think, well, they've done that also so that they can have some mental space to work on the movie. But it also maybe gave them more money to play with per episode. I mean, I don't know numbers, how much they got to work with, but clearly, I'm sorry. They had some money to play with.
Yeah. By the end of the series, I believe it was $2 million per, if maybe I have the number wrong, but I think it's 2, which is a lot of money for television. Not so much these days, but
initial thoughts about the episode. I thought it was a good season ender, but I think it is kind of eclipsed by the ones that came before it. Maybe because they are kind of running on empty. Like they've had to carry this mythology arc pretty hard for the last 4 seasons and constantly adding on to it like, a bad paint job and stuff is flaking off and maybe not making sense completely. And it does lead us into some revelation, which is going to work. And obviously it's going to lead us into the movie, but I think they have done better jobs previously. I what if this one a lot more than I do other episodes, as you will no doubt hear soon. But yeah, initial impressions are, it's good, but not great.
Fair. We don't want to belabor the points here, so we are going to move right into the episode. Before I get started here, written...
Wait, are you going to end the discussion?
I'm ending the discussion right here, the end of this discussion and the beginning of talking about the episode.
The beginning
written
of the end.
What?
It's the beginning of the end.
Yes, it is the beginning of the end. And at the end, it'll be the end.
Right.
Written by Chris Carter and directed by the closer, R.W. Goodwin. Thankfully, though, he did not include his wife in this one.
Oh, you would have hated the episode then, eh?
It's garbage.
The Scully family reunion.
So we are in Vancouver. We get a nice panning shot of a gigantic stadium. There's a chess match going on. A young boy is playing a grown man in a tight game of chess. The man seems a little unsure as thousands look on. He makes his move, the young boy his. From above, a sniper is assembling his gun. They make more moves. As the boy finishes his, he hears jumbled audio of what sounds like people talking. He begins looking all over and suddenly, up beyond the nosebleeds, he keys in. He brings his attention back to his opponent who is making his next move. The kid makes one more, pushes away from the table, and suddenly we hear a gunshot. It pierces the boy's opponent, who falls to the ground, and the crowd stampedes to the exits. The sniper himself looks shocked. The boy looks up. He senses the man. Credits. So, as we do, we talk about the opening sequence. How did this grab you?
I am okay with it. I like it a lot less as the story unfolds because I look at it like, why are you trying to kill him here if later on you're trying to basically kidnap him? If he's important to you later, why are you trying to kill him now?
Okay.
So as the opening credit sequence, I'm fine with it. Like it is engaging, it adds some tension, all the rest of it. The reveal at the end is big. No, he has some superpowers. Fine. We know it's an X-File. It's all good. Just later on, this opening makes no sense. So,
okay. Starting off hot, Andrew.
I am coming out of the gates with a bang.
Here we go.
Kind of like a sniper's bullet.
Can't suspend his disbelief just for an episode or two.
As I said right here, it's suspended, baby. Later on, those strings get cut real hard.
Well, we come back from the credits. It is the Laurentian Mountains. We see 2 parasailers landing. They're all clad in black. Inside his small cabin, CSM is brewing some tea when his perimeter alarm goes off. The 2 men with guns quietly approach, or as quietly as you can in crunchy snow.
Mm-hmm.
One opens the door and is promptly shot dead. The next is a little bit more cautious. He sneaks around and he notices bloody footsteps off into the snow, and we have a chase scene. CSM is running into the forest. The secret agent, whatever you want to call him, manages to cut him off, fires a shot into the air to get him to stop, and he removes his mask. It's Krychek. CSM urges him, he goads him into trying to kill him. I was sent to bring you back, Alex says. We cut to Mulder's office. Skinner's snooping around, waiting for Mulder.
I need to talk about this recovery of CSM.
Okay. Go ahead.
Couldn't you have just written him a letter? He's good at sending letters.
I'm sure Krychek was chomping at the bit to come at this guy. He doesn't like him right now.
There was no way that their plot to get him, at gunpoint was ever going to end in anything but violence. Like, what were they expecting? Who drafted this plan? Look, it makes for great TV. I'm fine with it as an action scene. But again, looking at it again in the rewatch, I'm like, wait a second.
Andrew, if you're going to pick apart every scene, I will eject you
We're
from
going to be here
this
a while,
episode.
folks. 4-hour-long podcast exceeds our quota.
I got a problem. Why are they driving a car? Oh, I mean, it does make sense. It's an interesting point. They obviously knew where he was.
Yeah. I mean, you could do a whole thing about how they knew, but it's like they know he's there. They need him. They're sending Alex Krycek to go get him. Like, they know that those guys have a history. It's like, how do you know Alex isn't just going to blow him away? He resisted, guys. Sorry. I don't know. I
like to
problems with
believe,
it as a scene. Like I told
Andrew.
you, I didn't like this one as much, but there you go.
Whatever.
Please, pray continue.
Pray continue.
Maybe I won't have any other thoughts.
Now that you've shat all over the opening scene.
Gonna be a long one.
It's 7:47 where I am. We'll see what time we end, ladies and gentlemen. So, Mulder's office. Skinner is snooping around the office, poking around, waiting for Mulder. He came to ask Mulder a question when he arrives, but instead asks him what his long-term plans are, seemingly changing directions for a moment. What do you hope to find in the end? We have a title, ladies and gentlemen. Mulder says whatever he hopes to find is in these files. And Skinner, getting back to the point, tells him about a case that has just come by. Nothing he'd normally send Mulder, but the case went directly to Agent Spender from outside the Bureau, and that he asked specifically that Mulder not be involved. Stirring the pot a little bit with Spender, Skinner comes straight to Mulder and gives him the case. The briefing is going on right now. We cut to the briefing, and it should be noted that even Scully was invited to this.
Yeah, total diss.
Right.
God, it's like high school.
But also kind of
What are you
like,
doing?
even if
my party, Mulder.
even if Mulder hadn't barged in, you're inviting his partner who you've already had words with yourself. So, yeah, kind of a dumb move there. Spender has gathered many agents together to go over what's happened. Mulder and Skinner arrive, and Spender is just thrilled to see them. It should be noted that Spender goes on to say the trajectory suggests the shooter acted alone and it struck the player near his solar plexus. It's at this point that Mulder decides to interrupt and asks him to rewind the tape. The Russian wasn't the target, it was the 12-year-old boy. Spender tries to dismiss it, but as he rewinds it, Mulder points it out. The boy pushes away from the table after he makes his move. A woman in the room, out of nowhere, agrees with Mulder. It is here, ladies and gentlemen, we are introduced to everyone's favorite character, Diana Fowler.
Cue applause.
She says it looks like the boy sensed the killer precognitively to a surprised room. Mulder did not say that. It's impossible.
This is spooky Fowler.
Yeah, spooky Fowler. Freaky Fowler.
Yeah, it is.
Alliteration.
Spooky and freaky. Yes, perfect.
Spender says it's impossible, but Skinner says just rewind the tape so we can all see. As he does, sure enough, as we saw in the beginning, the boy looks far up into the rafters. Spender's pissed, and the woman nods at Mulder. Oh, reassuring.
So I love this scene, but I have one major plot problem. I mean, I know I haven't had any problems with this story so far.
I'm shocked. Shocked even.
And yeah, so in Canada, we are very nice, generally. I don't know that we would have just handed over a murder suspect for a crime that happened in Vancouver.
I think you would have.
You think we would? Yeah, fair. Okay.
Well, to be fair, I think as we found out, the shooter is NSA, so they probably got that to consider. I'm not saying that the Canadians would necessarily... What?
What?
Are you questioning Chris Carter?
Yeah, exactly.
How dare you?
You know what? We knew, the old RCMP knew that we were over our heads. And when the offer came from the FBI to investigate that because of the American citizen and the NSA shooter dude, we were like, you know what? Just take him off our hands. I don't want nothing to do with this.
You all are better.
Those 27,000 fans
in
in the arena, they are going to go to their Tim Hortons coffees and not care. It'll be fine.
I just drink Folgers. He's former NSA, which I believe he was recruited into the syndicate at some point as a hitman.
But the weapon...
They needed to fill Quiet Willie's spot.
The weapon apparently was registered to an intelligence agency. I think Spender says that pretty directly. Mm-hmm. So there's a tie-in.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was a giant plot hole. So there you go. I just thought I had to point that out.
I think
if they had done the usual thing of casting Vancouver as Chicago, this would have all been avoided. And I think probably the original script had it like that. But because it's the love letter to Vancouver and they wanted to actually call it Vancouver, that's the only reason this happened. So I'm willing to forgive it, X-Files. Moving on.
I'm just trying to play Tetris with your logic of having a problem with that, but enjoying a show about the paranormal.
I will defend this since you're calling this out. The reason I think the X-Files works is because it is so close to reality and it bends the rules in a delightful way. You know, it doesn't go into supernatural territory, and I mean the show Supernatural, where it's like, hey, it's a vampire episode, let's kill vampires. You know, we all know vampires exist. Here it's close enough to our real lives that we could see ourselves getting into these situations. That's why it works.
I'm just yanking your chain.
I needed to defend myself.
So moving on. It is now nighttime.
Yes.
We are under an overpass. The syndicate is there waiting. Krychek and CSM meet them. He makes a snide remark. You look surprised. Is it because I'm here or because I'm alive? I like that line. Very cool. Very cigarette smoking man.
Yep.
They begin to play fools to what happened, but CSM says you obviously overestimated the man you sent to do the job.
Oh,
and then there is indeed
Willie.
An unintentional moment of silence for Quiet Willie.
Yeah.
But CSM swiftly casts it aside and says, all is forgiven. They need him for a job. CSM is curt with them and holding it over them in so many words that they need him now after they tried to have him killed. They assert the boy is a problem for all of them, including CSM. And even as he is combative, he says they can count on him, and he walks away. We cut to a car, Mulder, Scully, and Folly. It's here we get introduced officially to Diana. She's been in the Bureau since 91, and she's been on foreign terrorist concerns in the Middle East for the time we've known the X-Files. She just recently requested reassignment. There were things at home she'd like to get back.
Do we think that, in previous episodes, like historical episodes, I'm thinking of The Unusual Suspects, where Mulder is shown wearing a wedding ring.
Yeah.
Do we think he was married to Diana Fowler?
It's been alluded to, and we actually covered it in that episode, or maybe not that episode, but it was definitely covered in Travelers.
We talked about it off camera, I think.
It's been hinted at by some people that he did indeed have a wife. It's never said in so many words. So I don't quite know. I guess we're supposed to infer that, but I choose not to believe.
Either that or there's another character that we haven't met yet.
Yeah, just something. I mean, I don't know. Doesn't really matter one way or the other, but...
No, it doesn't.
I feel like they would
shippers,
say
it. Does.
Maybe not.
Well, that's the tension in this scene, right? That Scully figures out pretty quickly that there was something between them. Mm-hmm. And that is what is being thrown at us like a load of manure to make us dislike Diana Fowley, because she is just, as you say, a foil to Scully.
Yeah.
You know, when two women fight over a man, apparently, is the basest thing they can do in this episode. But looking at her objectively, she's a fine agent. You know, she observed things in that briefing, stood up for Mulder. I don't know what's not to like about that.
Mm-hmm. It's here the agents arrive at Injit Murray Psychiatric Hospital. We cut to a room with the boy watching The Simpsons because Fox likes to promote itself frequently.
But can we speak to the episode, though? It's one of my favorites. It's where Homer gets a gun and it like destroys their family life. And the scene is great, right? He's got the gun on the table and
puts it
shot
down.
things. It shoots of its own accord. I'm wondering why they chose this scene, because they had to have specifically chosen it.
Yeah.
The gun has a mind of its own, right?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't figure that out. I know there's probably a reason why.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Mulder begins chatting with the boy.
Gibson? Hi. My name is Fox. This is Dana and Diana. How you doing?
I don't mind it here. They get all the good TV shows. Where I live in the Philippines, all we get is Baywatch.
What's wrong with Baywatch?
You've got a dirty mind.
Your parents are going to pick you up on Friday, Gibson, to take you back home.
I don't want to play any chess.
How do you know I want to?
Because you got that cheap old chess computer in your hand.
It's not so cheap. Just want to see how fast you can beat it?
No.
Maybe because you can. I'm right, aren't I? You know what I'm talking about. You knew the moment I came in. That's how you win, isn't it? How you know what your opponent's gonna do. You get inside his head, you read his thoughts. That's how you knew that man was gonna shoot you. Isn't it?
I know what's on your mind. I know you're thinking about one of the girls you brought.
Driving home the wedge. Scully
He's
versus
a little shit
Diana.
disturber is what he is.
Oh, man. Mulder chuckles a little bit and says this kid needs round-the-clock protection. He leaves the room. Scully follows and inquires what's going on. He's convinced that the kid is no chess master, and if given the opportunity, Mulder could probably beat him. They go back and forth for a little bit. Scully says, what you're positing is that this kid can read minds. He says we've seen countless cases like this before, but she pushes back on this and says, look, we've seen lucky guessers and fakers. No one who can claim that they can zero in on the mind of one person in a crowd of thousands.
Was she not in Pusher? Did she not see what he could do? I mean, I know it's not reading minds, but like,
Yeah.
it's like she has forgotten about that particular mental power.
She
that
does
is clearly exhibited.
Yeah. She does kind
Maybe
of
she
forget things in this moment here. Let's just be
when
nice
it's
about
convenient for the plot to pit her against Mulder.
it. Right. Diana, of course, is listening.
Sorry, one more call out before we rush on here.
Yeah.
I just noted in the legend for this, the home that Gibson Praise is staying at, it's in Gaithersburg, Maryland.
Oh.
Do you remember the significance of Gaithersburg?
Last episode.
Erlenmeyer Flask. It's where they had MGen Corporation, where he rented the car.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Scully asks a logical question. Why would someone want to kill someone who can give them the ultimate advantage in just about everything? And Diana chimes in, someone whose business is in keeping secrets. Scully's not impressed.
That's a two-edged sword. That's because, like, yes, he could reveal your secrets, but he could also get the secrets of your enemy. I mean, it's a very powerful weapon.
This kind of power is pretty intense. I can imagine multiple uses for this child, and we're going to find out what everyone wants to do with him by the end of the episode. So,
yeah. Yeah. Okay, so while I'm thinking of it, the question would be, why do they wait until his chess match in Vancouver to off him?
I think it was a matter of identifying him. I don't know that they knew forever who he was.
Okay, go.
I honestly don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Not my worst what if so far.
Mulder wants him fully tested, and he leaves. He says, "You know what to do, Diana." That's kind of a burn on Scully, right?
Yeah, I caught that too.
She believes me. He flips his hair and walks away.
Well, it's alluding to an intimate relationship that is suddenly excluding Scully. You know, I think maybe, you know, in terms of the tension between Diana and Dana, Mulder is not helping anything by oh yeah, we've been partners for the past 5 years, but it's really great to see you, Diana.
It was a little harsh. It was like,
Yeah.
I mean, she's just doing what Scully does, but it's not like she deserved to be like, anyway, Diana, can you take care of this? Hand in the face.
Yeah.
It was a little harsh.
Well, Diana is taller though, so I mean, doesn't have to lean over.
Yeah. From here, we go to the federal detention facility where the shooter is being held.
What, are you seeing this? This is in Fort Marlene, Maryland.
Oh, yeah.
That was the name of that was the place where the high containment facility was in Erlenmeyer Flats.
You gotta save something.
Oh, you were about to say that.
Well, I was gonna say like.
I'm sorry. You can cut all that.
No, it's fine. You are correct. They are paying tribute to the last episode of the first season.
I'm marking the time code where Andrew interrupts.
No, it's fine. Okay, so we cut to the federal detention facility, Fort Marlene, Maryland.
I'm sorry. I did not see this when I first watched it, and I'm just seeing it now. It's blowing my mind now, man.
Blowing my mind. Mulder arrives just as Spender is exiting the interrogation.
What are you doing here?
I want to talk to the shooter.
I've just spent the last 6 hours talking with him. He's not been what I would call forthcoming.
Okay, well, let me see what I can do.
I'd prefer you stay out of there. In fact, I'd prefer you stay out of this thing altogether.
You know, when I first met you, I figured you were just ambitious. And this morning, my opinion changed, and I thought you were arrogant. Now I'm beginning to wonder what you're protecting.
We're just trying to run this thing right. Not like some ridiculous paranormal free-for-all.
You're insulting me when you should be taking notes. Somehow you got the big assignment, but just because you're wearing the suit doesn't mean it fits. You're lucky you're not busy defusing an international incident, kissing some serious Russian ass and sending a whole lot of agents sparking down a whole lot of bad leads. Now, the kid is the key to this. And the shooter knows why. Excuse me. What does it take to kill a kid? Money or just evil stupidity?
I didn't kill a kid.
No, thanks to the kid.
Can I talk about heartlessness? His squeaky friend there hasn't given me any food or water for 16 hours.
I won't tolerate that. Spender, you gotta get this guy some food. Come on.
I've got nothing to say.
I read your bio. You've been trained, special forces. You're in Grenada, Zaire. You were inside Saddam's palace with a hit squad when they started raining bombs down over it, yet you failed to kill him as well.
Like I said.
Yeah, I know you got nothing to say. That's okay, I'm a pretty good guesser. The kid reads minds, how's that? Why don't I tell them you told me that, and then let's see how safe and snug you feel in here.
What can you do for me?
I don't know. I might be able to get you immunity or get you into the witness protection program.
Never happened.
Think about it.
What'd you get? Did you get anything?
Just his attention.
So now they know that the shooter is starting to talk because he would not talk to Spender at all.
I really like this scene because it shows Mulder has evolved as an agent. Like he knows the world with which this guy is engrossed.
Yeah.
Like trying to appeal to him on a level, like an emotional level, is not going to work.
No.
But literally going to a place of, what can I give you? You know, or what can you do for me? It's such a great line, right? Like,
yeah. I like the way he lays out his career for him. And he takes that jab at him too. He's like, you were in Saddam's palace with a hit squad, and yet you failed to kill him too. Just piling on that he failed at his mission right now. On a likely much easier scenario. So it's a little, like, you son of a bitch. But yeah, playing to his emotions would not work. So you want to hit him where it hurts and just lay it out for him. And I think it worked here.
I'm a bit surprised that he is, he's a murderer. Like, he used a sniper rifle to kill a dude, and he's kind of, the security's not high on this guy. Like, Mulder and Spender are letting themselves in and out of that cell, and it just, I feel like there'd be a guard there somehow.
Oh, he is. He's bringing the food.
Yeah, he's armed with a tray.
Yes. From here, we go back to the hospital. Scully is walking with Gibson. He says she's wondering about Diana, showing his skills one more time. Diana appears in the doorway ahead of them, and she's wondering about you too. It's here where we get a cool scene where Gibson is sitting in a room with a bunch of psychiatrists. He's now being tested. This is part of his test, and they start holding up cards, each with individual pictures on them, and his goal is to guess what's on each one. As they hold them up, the camera's panning behind them, and we see that every card is guessed correctly. From the observation room, Scully and Diana are a little shocked. Diana talks a bit about how her and Mulder spent some time in psych hospitals, but they've never seen anything quite like this. As time goes on, Gibson starts listing food, and as he finishes, one of the doctors looks back to the ladies to state that he just guessed what they each had for breakfast that day, to roarous applause by them. It's a cute scene. I like it. It's interesting.
Okay, as much as I have dumped on this episode a little bit coming up to this point, I really like this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons I really like it is there have been some episodes of the X-Files where they have these scientific revelations, you know, things that happen that get cast aside as red herrings. I'm thinking of like the time difference on two stopwatches. I'm thinking of the Coriolis effect going the other way in and the Andervillets. And, you know, they're used to make a point, but they are of themselves ridiculously crazy important, you know, and they should be analyzed because like this is ridiculous, you know, and I'm seeing it happen right here.
Yeah.
Gibson praise is an example of that. And they are giving it its proper due. Like they are really testing him and showing us, not just telling us, but showing us how powerful he is.
Yeah.
And it's really effective. It's not a computer with stuff attached to his brain.
Right.
And we get little printouts showing us his midichlorian count or whatever. He's demonstrating the power of his ability, and it's really, really powerful.
And that's one thing that's really cool about it is that it's low tech because it's just him talking to a bunch of doctors, and it's simple. It's not like this rigorous test, but it's also upping the stakes of the episode pretty significantly. Like we can see all that stuff, and now we can believe what Mulder believes, and you know, we're on board as the audience. So that's pretty cool.
He is the real deal.
We cut back to the shooter's cell. The little visor opens up and the guard tells the sniper he was handed a note to give to him and now he's giving it to him. The guard is Michael Seamus Wiles and he will appear in the movie. The shooter takes the note. He unfolds it and it states, "You are a dead man." He flips it over and it is a Morley cigarette wrapper. What could this mean?
The cigarette smoking man's been set up. It didn't come from him. He's too nice.
Scully arrives at the lone gunman office. She buzzes to get in, and Frohickey promptly unlocks about 6 or 7 deadbolts. It's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah. It's automatically a better episode because the lone gunman.
Absolutely. So. Goes up a notch. Yep. She gathers the boys and asks about Gibson Praise. They know who he is. She wants them to look at his tests and analyze them with an eye to the paranormal. Each of them clocks, "This is strange coming from Scully. Walk on the wild side," Frohickey pokes. She then asks about Diana Fowley. They haven't heard this name in a while, but they do know who she is. And Frohickey states she was Mulder's chickadee for a while. I would like to editorialize here. Ladies and gentlemen, as it has been posited, and as we just talked about a few minutes ago, this does not mean they were married. But apparently, people believe that. I don't know.
The real truth is that Mulder was married to somebody else that we have not yet met. We can give them
I think he has to be married.
Polly Mulder.
Yikes.
Or he was married to his work, and it was a sort of symbolic ring.
You want my honest opinion? Here we go. He got in over his head, as he states, in fire. And I think maybe he and Phoebe Green went to the local courthouse in England.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
After they said their vows in front of a minister at the courthouse, they went and fucked atop Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's tomb.
Likely that's how it happened. Or she needed to get married for a green card. That's what it was. Yeah, for visa purposes.
That's
so
probably
there's
what it
that
was.
theory. I would like to swing back to the lone gunman scene here and just point out Frohickey wearing what appears to be a bulletproof vest over
Pajamas.
Crazy pajamas.
They look like footsie pajamas, but we never get a shot of his feet.
And that they're sleeping at the office. This is the best
This
part,
is where they
right?
live.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous, but it's awesome. So Frohickey states that she was Mulder's chickadee for a while, and Byers even goes so far as to question why they split up, and Scully takes a little bit of offense to that, even though it was likely unintended by Byers. There's obvious tension after this. Scully's feeling a little bit threatened. We cut to the hospital. Gibson's watching TV again. Diana watches through an observation window, and he turns back to look at her. Now, it's likely a one-way mirror, I'm assuming. He technically doesn't know she's there, but because he can read minds, he does. Mulder arrives. He's the real deal, she says. They catch up, and she compliments him quite a few times, playing her card a little heavily. She makes a play that the last few years with Scully had to have been difficult because of her ways and not always seeing eye to eye with Mulder. But it's here that he actually defends Scully a couple times. I've done all right without you. And this kind of takes Diana Fowley back because this is the moment, in contrast to earlier where he relied on Diana in an argument with Scully. Now he's defending Scully when Diana's trying to call her a roadblock.
I don't think he's aware that there's a competition between. I think he just views them both as capable FBI agents, and we're all going to work this case together.
Yeah, I don't think he's thinking on the level of one versus the other. Personally, right now, I think Diana's playing that card pretty quick and almost immediately. So far, every scene we've seen her in, it's written that way, of course. You know, they're butting heads in a certain way, and she's coming to Mulder's rescue in the meeting in front of all these other agents where no one else would ever defend Spooky Mulder. Not even Scully in that moment because, you know, she's on board for the official investigation. So they immediately play her against Scully, and in every scene they try to do that. But I do enjoy and appreciate that he actually pushes back in this scene. And, you know, when she's trying to cast Scully as a roadblock or invaluable, he says, no, I've done all right without you. And she just keeps me honest, essentially.
I like it too.
It's a great thing to see him actually stick up for her and acknowledge that because she is who she is, he's been able to evolve.
Well, and do better work, I would argue.
Yeah.
Because he's not just given free rein to succumb to his baser instincts.
Yeah, because
to actually be accountable.
Yeah, if you're stuck with Diana, and like she says, two like minds would have been advantageous. Yeah, well, because you guys would corroborate each other's theories and just one big circle of, well, you're right. I know. Thank you. You're right too.
The perfect example for this is EBE getting the photograph.
Yeah.
Of the flying saucer. They both would have looked at that and went, this is it. This is the best photo I've seen of a UFO ever. Fantastic. Let's take it to the press. Whereas Scully immediately looks at it and goes, that's a fake. You know, and it's because she is able to be the foil that Mulder has it checked out and realizes, yeah, you were right.
Yeah.
So
once he defends her, she changes it up a little bit. She grabs his hand and says she's on his side. Scully's walking in down the hall with the brain scans. She passes the doorway and she sees them holding hands and smiling.
At least they're not dancing together a la Fire.
She takes a moment and then leaves before entering the room. as she gets in her car. She didn't drop her keys this time because there's no seraphim.
Because it's a better episode, yeah.
She looks a little defeated, takes a moment to think. The music tells us she's sad. She calls Mulder instead of being with them in person, even though she's right there. She wants to show him something about the boy and that he will be very, very surprised. He says he's on his way.
I'm intrigued by why Scully has the gambit of "I prefer to show you at work."
I think she saw
I think she wants to not be around Diana.
Yeah, exactly. She's trying to pull him away.
Yeah.
And besides, at work, she's got more of a comfort level there. The office is just as much hers at this point.
So we're meant to intuit that Scully is threatened by Diana because she thinks that that Mulder is going to think of Diana as a better partner than Scully is.
I think there are different levels. I don't think, for all the shippers out there, I don't think she's threatened in a romantic way, even if the episode wants you to think that.
Absolutely it does.
I do think it's professional. I think she feels like she's being edged out by someone Mulder not only agrees with on a lot of things, but has a history with. And who better to work with than someone who you have a great rapport with and agrees with everything you have to say. So I think she's probably concerned about that.
So she's feeling professionally threatened that all the work that she's put in, the time she's put in, is not going to mean anything because she's about to be cast aside for a different, better partner.
And if you look at it like that, I mean, he's already been somewhat unavailable because of her. So, like, let's say the day she's been in their lives now, he's not as available to talk to and to bounce things off of and to investigate with as he normally would be. So that's probably throwing her for a loop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's tearing him away by making him come to work. I mean, not that they couldn't bone up against the wall real quick before, but she doesn't have to see it. God damn it.
Chris Carter is such a teenager. All she needed was a little moment, like
she's clutching the brain scans against her chest as she braces herself against the wall, and then it cuts to commercial.
Single tear. All right, moving on.
Scully begins to back out, but she gets cut off by Spender arriving at the parking garage.
Such a dick.
She ignores. He doesn't realize, but he is a dick because he's just tearing down that stretch of parking garage.
Yeah.
They go their separate ways. He gets out of his car, and who is there in the shadows but CSM? Calls him over. Uh-oh. They don't know each other.
He's going to try and make Agent Spender smoke.
Yep. You want to try one?
Cigarette. First one's free, kid.
He claims to have given Spender the case. CSM tells him to control the board, know who to sacrifice, and don't be a part of anyone else's cause or crusade. Mulder exits a nearby stairwell, sees Spender talking to someone in a trench coat, and sees smoke. He runs over, but as he arrives, cigarette-smoking man is gone. He asks who Spender was talking to, and he says he doesn't know. I was told he was dead. Obviously, whoever it was, he's not. Oh boy.
I like this moment. It alludes to the fatherly bond that I think the cigarette smoking man wants to have with Spender. He's giving him the fatherly advice: control the board, pursue your own self-interest, etc.
Yeah. This is essentially his first dealing with Spender. He tried to send him that letter at the Red and the Black.
Yeah.
But obviously he just sent it back without a response. So this is his first interaction with his son, Agent Spender.
I gotta say, the cigarette smoking man can run.
Yeah, he just takes one step and gone.
Exactly. Spender, I would love Spender to be like, who was that guy? I don't know, but fuck, he can run.
He took off, man. For a smoker, he's got some lungs on him.
Yeah.
We go to Skinner's office. Mulder encourages Scully to tell him exactly what she told him. Diana and Spender are in the back.
I've conducted some tests on Gibson Praise and have come up with some rather unexpected conclusions. Ones which I myself have difficulty reconciling with what I know.
These are?
Neurological tests, mapping of brain functions using a very high-resolution EEG.
And what did you find out?
The tests revealed something peculiar in an area of the brain that we are only beginning to understand. An area of the temporal lobe that neurophysicists are calling the God module.
I hope I'm not going to hear that this kid is the next Christ child.
All of the boy's brain processes are showing extraordinary activity in exactly this part of the brain, which is not just abnormal or anomalous, but from what I know, absolutely unheard of.
There are corollaries. Individuals who've been responsible for great leaps forward in understanding in science, Newton, Galileo, Einstein, Stephen Hawking, all these men exhibited modes of thinking that are suggestive of access to special brain centers.
All right, so this kid is a human oddity. Would somebody please tell me why anyone would go to such great lengths as to kill him?
But this kid may be the key, not just to all human potential, but to all spiritual, unexplained, paranormal phenomena. The key to everything in the X-Files.
Let me get this right. We're supposed to believe that this boy was going to be killed because of the X-Files?
No, it's bigger than that.
Uh-huh. Explain it to me. To us.
I can't. But the shooter can. The assassin that you have locked up. In exchange for immunity from prosecution.
You want to give a murderer a free ride for the secrets to the pyramids? This is crazy. It's nuts.
You mischaracterize what I've said. This would be quantifiable scientific proof of everything that Agent Mulder and I have investigated over the past 5 years.
How do you quantify the spiritual? It can't be done. Now, you ask for immunity for a killer on that basis, the Attorney General's going to go off. You're allowed to investigate the X-Files as an indulgence, but draw the wrong kind of attention and they'll close you down. Put an end to all your work, something I happen to have an interest in myself.
Let's everyone step out in the hall. Agent Mulder, you stay put. She's right, you know. The risk you're taking, the long-term plans that you and I talked about.
If what Agent Scully's found is true, and I have every reason to believe that it is, then the answers I might have spent a lifetime searching for may fall together like a million puzzle pieces.
You'd risk the X-Files.
How soon can you call the Attorney General?
So there's stuff I like about this scene, but I just wish they'd gone about it a bit differently. Like, we already know Gibson Praise is important. You know, he has showed us how important he is by what he can do. Mm-hmm. But to have this whole business of the God module and make it spiritual and to show that he is as important as Einstein and all the rest of them, I don't really, in my mind, need to go into that. I feel like it's a bit of a diversion. I don't think it makes the episode better to have it here.
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, without having Gibson with them, a way to explain to Skinner, who's got to pull the trigger on whatever, that this kid's important. We have proof that he's got access to parts of the brain that no one else does. It might be a little heavy-handed, I guess, to agree with you. It's not necessarily required, but I think it makes, in terms of the episode, I think it makes a good or interesting scene. I don't know why they couldn't just bring him here and like demonstrate.
Yeah.
But, you know, they have to have this conflict between not only Spender, but also Diana to tell us, the viewer, what's going to happen. Yeah, this all sounds good, but you're also trying to give a murderer immunity because you're saying someone can read minds.
Well, I think that is the real conflict, the good conflict in this scene. Like, the rest of it is I could do without, but just getting to a place where Skinner and Mulder are now talking and saying, you're going to risk the X-Files by doing this, you know, all of this to potentially give immunity to a murderer. This is a tall order. Is it that important to sort of stake your political capital on this one kid?
Yeah.
And I like that Mulder clearly thinks it is. He will burn it all for this one glimpse of the truth.
He sees that lottery ticket.
He does have a lottery ticket squirreled away, yeah.
We cut to the shooter's cell. Mulder lets him know that the request has been heard, but the Attorney General needs more. The shooter, having gotten a cryptic note in the previous scene, is rattled. The kid is the missing link. Mulder asks and answers his own questions from this point. The kid is genetic proof. Spender's lost at this point. The kid isn't superhuman, he's just more human than human. As Mulder and Spender rush out, he tells Spender, we all have genes that we don't use and no one really knows why. He begins talking about prehistoric evidence of alien astronauts, and Spender, in a brief moment I actually agree with, points out that Mulder not only led the witness here, the shooter, he's actually leading himself because he's asking and answering all of his own questions and coming to his own conclusions.
Yeah.
The shooter didn't say shit. He just said he's the key, the missing link.
Well, okay, so it's interesting that we are reviewing this kind of on the heels of having looked at the Erlenmeyer flask. And if you just look at that episode, it has all of the ingredients for this episode in that they're just taking alien DNA and gene splicing it with human DNA. Gibson Praise could just easily be the latest version of that experiment, and his superpower is he gets to read minds. So I don't know why Mulder needs to use the superpower here to invent a new plot when we have a perfectly good plot already. But I absolutely agree with your point that I'm on Spender's side here. Like you are taking this down a weird path, Mulder, and even you can't see how this is going to blow up in your face. I'm surprised at the way the plot is directing it.
So, from here, we cut to a street. CSM is exiting his hotel. He lights up a cigarette. A car with Krychek and well-manicured man pulls up. He accuses CSM of failing the mission. Mulder's gone to the Justice Department. CSM doesn't seem worried at all. It's just part of the game. Well-manicured man is not impressed, but CSM explains taking the pieces off the game one by one until the board is cleared is what you're doing. It's nighttime now. We cut to Centerville, Virginia. Gibson's hideout. He's watching King of the Hill, the second show of the episode.
Yep.
Scully sits in a corner and watching him, taking notes from Lance from All Souls as he looks out at his yard.
Yes.
She wants to ask
Lance glances.
Lance glances.
Yeah.
She asks him how he does it, and he explains it's like a radio. He just hears you thinking, and sometimes he hears everyone, and he wants all the radios to turn off so he can watch some TV. She asks about chess. Is that why you play? He says, it's not why I like to all the time, but it is just thinking. There's no talking. Unlike real life, where people think one thing but say another. And he lays some sweet poetry on our girl about how everyone's worried about what everyone else is thinking, but everyone else is just worried about what everyone else is thinking.
Yeah.
It's a weird circle. Pretty astute.
I do like it though. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it's very well handled by the actor in this case. Like he's not playing it like a child actor trying to be a child. Like it's very honest.
He's definitely aged beyond his years. This power probably gives him that, or they've written him like this power's kind of made him look at the world more honestly and adult.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
He says some people don't care. Like Scully, you don't care what people think, except for her, alluding to Diana. She, of course, at this moment,
at the door, by the way,
knocks at the door and lets herself in. She relieves Scully, who makes plans with Gibson to talk later. As she leaves, he says, they want to kill me. Scully's caught off guard and says, we're not going to let that happen, I promise. I know you do.
I think the kid's first clue that they want to kill him is when a sniper shot the guy he was playing chess with.
That wasn't exactly revelatory.
Yeah, that was a bit of a throwaway. I'm realizing that they, as agents, missed a real opportunity there to get all the answers they want. Gibson Praise reads fucking minds.
Yeah.
Gibson, the guy who shot you is on the other side of this one-way mirror. Can you just tell us what he's thinking?
They just
Maybe
hold him
hired
up to
him
the
kill him.
window.
Yeah.
Tell us what he's thinking.
Who was the guy that that Agent Spender had a conversation with in the parking garage? Can you just imagine what he looks like?
He's a man who we don't know the name of yet.
Yeah, exactly.
He smokes a lot, though.
Real missed opportunity there to leverage this weapon they have talked about, right? Like the power to uncover secrets. There's the guy. Is Skinner in on the plot? Come on, Gibson. Read his mind.
So many questions could have been answered.
Yeah, this series could have ended on
Mulder
5
just
seasons
takes him
right there.
takes him down to his office and waves Samantha's folder in front of him.
Yeah.
What happened to this person?
Kid, you're my new partner. Scully's not working it.
We cut back to the shooter's cell. The same guard has another note for the shooter, but this time it's blank. As the shooter notices that a gun cocks, he looks out the small opening and sees a gun. Boom. Dead. Back at the hotel, it's quiet. Gibson's at the windows. He says there's a man with a gun. Diana rushes to get him away from the window. They're not pointing at me. Diana questions what he's talking about, and she falls to a gunshot.
Gibson's not very good at warning.
He's cocked it. He's pulling the trigger. Get down.
You shouldn't be at the window where someone is... like, why did she go to the window? I get why she went to the window, but
Yeah.
like...
I have a question.
She knows he's psychic.
My favorite what if of this episode, and it's more of a joke, but it's also kind of legitimate. How does Gibson know when they're actually going to pull the trigger? Unless the guy's thinking to himself, all right, I'm not going to pull the trigger now. Not now. Not. I think right about now.
I could see it.
It's just like, now, get down.
Yeah. So who do we think the shooter was? Do we think it's Cigarette Smoking Man?
I think it's probably the guard. Yeah, probably CSM.
I think it's CSM because he's the one that shows up and gives him praise later.
That's true. Good point. Mulder and Scully arrive the next morning. It is a crime scene. The ambulance is there along with a lot of police. Mulder's not too happy. He looks a little sad when he sees Diana, of course. Skinner is there to brief them about what's happened. Gibson's gone. Diana is in serious critical condition. And he tells them that Spender's at the federal detention, the shooter is dead, and he hands him the Morley wrapper that they found. Mulder looks sick.
Mm.
They probably didn't
It's
need
already been
it.
dusted for prints. There's nothing.
I mean, let's be real. They're not. No one's going to investigate this shit. It's CSM. There's no point. We're not going to waste thousands and thousands of dollars trying to figure out what happened.
It's a waste of the taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. Yeah.
We are back at the overpass once again, but this time it's daytime.
Wait, what happened to the first note that said you're a dead man? Did he eat it? Did he flush it down the toilet?
Maybe he pooped on it. Maybe he wiped his butt. I'm not a dead man. I'm in a cell, you fool.
I'm safe here. No one can get to me.
No one can get me. I've got my own personal guard who's going to shoot me.
Mm.
So a car pulls up. Well-manicured man gets out to meet cigarette-smoking man and Gibson Praise. He tells the boy there's nothing to be afraid of, but Gibson calls him a liar, just like CSM. The older gentlemen get into a war of words at this moment. Your work is done, and CSM says, it's just beginning. He walks away as well-manicured man gets into the car with Gibson. Alex Krychek, in the driver's seat, suggests hitting CSM with the car, but well-manicured man says no, he may be useful to you in the future. Krychek speeds off and narrowly misses him to send a message that he still doesn't like him.
Yeah, he's also a teenager. So you've got the well-manicured man saying, I don't like your methods. He thinks that the cigarette-smoking man is a thug, right? That's kind of what I take from that.
I think he begrudgingly has to work with him. And over the years, as much as he is distasteful of his methods, he does get things done when they can't.
Yeah, because the plan that the syndicate came up with was to snipe the kid. And yet here's the cigarette smoking man coming in with the kid alive. It's like, you want to talk about methods. I am the one who brought the kid in alive and didn't splatter his brains over a Russian.
Yeah.
Your way was gross. I don't know. This is the pot calling the kettle black to my mind.
From here, we go back to the federal holding cell. Mulder comes in with a very angry presence. He attacks Spender, who's briefing other agents. He begins rubbing the Morley wrapper in his face, accusing him of working with Old Smoky. I'm going to see you prosecuted for murder. Your days are numbered. And as Mulder leaves, Spender mutters his comeback just in time for Mulder not to hear it, because Spender is indeed a pussy. No, your days are numbered. Schoolyard crap where you got your face punched in and you're like, no.
Well, it's interesting because Spender has that little throwaway at the end saying, no, your days are numbered. And then, of course, by the end of the episode, Mulder is definitely taken down a peg. So is the illusion here that Spender is in on the plot? Like he does know what's going to come down the pipe?
CSM is helping him big time in doing these key things, taking Gibson, killing the shooter, putting people in place to get the job done. So he's taking advantage of, and I think he's in communication with CSM that we just don't see, to the point where he knows he's being helped. Let me rephrase that. Because of the meeting in the parking garage, he's being allowed to make moves and put pieces together that help get Mulder out of the scene.
Yeah, off the board, clearing the board.
Yeah, because of steps that CSM is taking. Bender is not doing it all himself. Absolutely not.
Oh, no, I didn't think he was. I was just wondering whether you thought maybe he was aware, if he was read in on the plot to destroy the X-Files.
He's definitely not.
Yeah. Okay.
So we fade out. Scully's on the phone with Skinner.
General.
You know what's coming down here.
Yes, sir.
They're serious about this, Scully.
I understand.
I assume you'll make Agent Mulder aware of this.
Yes, I'm here with him now.
I'm making a case his personal involvement clouded his judgment, but I don't know the Attorney General's listening.
I'll communicate that to him. Is there anything else? Any other news?
You should know Agent Spender's going after Mulder full bore. He's been reciting some line about alien astronauts that makes you both look really bad.
Right. Well, I'll be here if you need to reach me.
Any news on Diana?
They have her on maximum pressors, but she's barely maintaining her pressure.
What did Skinner have to say?
There are talks going on right now about reassignment.
For who?
Both of us. These talks included instructions from the Justice Department to close down the X-Files.
This was all strategized, every move. I just couldn't see it. It was all of a plan.
Mulder, whatever you may believe, this time they may have won.
And with a flick of a Zippo lighter, we get a cool little fade into CSM lighting a cigarette. He is in Mulder's office. It's dark. He walks over to the filing cabinet, fetches Samantha's file, and he pulls the cigarette out of his mouth. Cut to him getting off an elevator. He has the file in hand. Don't worry, everyone. Everything's fine. Spender's walking by.
Yeah.
The two men talk. How did you get in here? It's about access, Agent Spender. It's what I can give you. And when Spender asks who he is, he says, I'm your father. Spender at a loss for words, but doesn't have time to think, because as soon as that happens, the fire alarm goes off. CSM quickly leaves. We fade to the X-Files burning in Mulder's office. The cabinets are on fire. Mulder, later on assumedly, makes his way to the FBI. He goes down to his office in his civvies. He's got his little t-shirt on. Really cool scene. I like the way they shot this. He walks in, and we see the blue and red lights from the police cars outside kind of flashing across Mulder and Scully.
I was wondering about that. It suggests that they actually do have windows in their
they're
like
little
basement office,
high up towards the ceiling.
Yeah. So they just opened a window and poked in a little fire hose to spray in from above. I mean, you can see the sprinklers are on, which is an indictment of sprinklers because clearly they didn't do a great job in this room.
No. Everything is destroyed. Mulder and Scully, they both look devastated. And without saying anything, Scully takes a scan of the room, turns back to Mulder, and hugs him. She presses her head against his chest. He just stares on in disbelief. The music swells very dramatically, with the X-Files theme sprinkled in, and we fade out. The end.
Another dark ending. These pair never get a break.
No. What do you think of this episode, Andrew?
It was fine. It was like a 5, like it kind of got them to a place where they needed to be in order to launch into the movie. Like, I think if anything, what I don't like about it is that they have already pulled this trick before by shutting down the X-Files. In this case, it's not just shutting them down. They've been destroyed, which I suppose is a bit more final than the season 1 ending of simply closing them off, putting them under wraps and saying, you can't do this anymore. In this case, they have been destroyed.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I feel like they would probably have some kind of backup system. Like, I don't really buy that it is all hard copy, although this is 1998. Maybe things aren't put onto microfiche yet, but anyway, I understand what they were trying to do. They were making it a big dramatic season ender. And to that extent, it kind of worked. Like, it got us, probably was a big gasp when we see, the cigarette smoking man is our bad guy and he is doing this thing, which has a huge devastating impact on our protagonists. Yeah, it's going to hurt. So props to them for getting us to this place. I think there were a lot of missteps. Like, there are a lot of things that they wrote into this that either just flat out, to my mind, didn't really make sense or were a bit sophomoric. Like, having another love triangle bit of business, it's like,
unnecessary.
I know more recent shows avoid this trope, right, of having two women fight over a man, but like in 98, I suppose it was probably, a standard go-to for what you would write. They haven't really gone there, so props for avoiding it this long. Like, they put their fingers in the water a little bit with Phoebe Green, but they got burned pretty quick, so they didn't really go back.
Fun.
I know. It's my lifeblood. So in a sense, I guess it was fine. It got us to where we needed to be, but I think they have done much better work in the past. As a mythology episode, I think that it muddies the waters in a way. I think it's the beginning of some quality water muddying. But this is the problem when your vehicle for telling a story is to just ration out the facts, to bring back Deep Throat's character and the way he would ration out the facts for Mulder and Scully to bring them along. Like, this is the same trick that the episode is playing on us, the viewer. They have to invent new details, which are revelations, and they layer on detail after detail after detail, and eventually the plot starts to get convoluted. So this is yet another part of that, which maybe is part of the reason it's not a great episode for me. It just complicates things in a way. So I don't know. I guess that's my roundabout way of finalizing my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not a wonderful episode. I know I was giving you a guff at the beginning of the episode, but I just like to do that when
I know
we pick apart stuff. So it's a good time. I think
if we got along, it wouldn't be any fun.
Right. I think the episode in general is serviceable. I like it. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think it has its problems in maybe trying to do too much. I like the idea of CSM burning the X-Files. I like the idea of that finality of it, the which it could have had multiple meetings because of, the end of the show intention. But for this, it got us to the movie. It was one of those moments that made everyone probably squirm at the final shot. Everything that we've experienced up until this point is gone. So it's impactful, at least in that. It was powerful. I enjoy it. It's very dramatic. The whole Gibson praise thing, I think they could have handled a little bit better, because why is he suddenly the target of something? I feel like we need at least some explanation as to what the syndicate views of him. Why is he suddenly on your radar? That could have benefited the episode a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm okay with how they did it, but at the same time, it does pose questions that never really get answered. So overall, I would say about a 6 or 7. I'm a little higher on this than you, but
they go straight to killing him, right? That's the thing I have an issue with is, well, like I said at the very beginning, like they give us a pulse-pounding intro with the assassination attempt, but it doesn't make sense when later on they are fine with just having him turn over, have the cigarette smoking man collecting him and turn him over to you.
Yeah.
So it's like they react with violence in a way that is out of character when they probably have more than enough resources to just lift him off the street. Van pulls up, boom.
I will say,
bag over his head.
To that point, the fact that the syndicate is reacting with violence, while obviously the organization itself is a violent organization when it needs to be, at least in the eyes of well-manicured man, he's not all about that. So the fact that that was their move was interesting.
Exactly right. As I said, pot calling the kettle black.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, I guess it works. All in all, I give the episode positive marks for being that end of the season episode that launched us into the movie. I don't think it was bad, but it did have its problem.
We have seen worse episodes.
Oh, absolutely.
By far. Yeah.
And besides, I like the last shot with the blue and reds piercing in through the darkness. It's very cool.
Yeah, it was a great shot. Again, nothing about the show in terms of how it's acted, how the shots are constructed, the music, all of those component pieces, they're always top notch. Like I have no complaint with anything about how the show looks, sounds, or is acted. It is usually the script and how it's, the moving pieces are put together. There's either something missing or a misstep, which is like, wait, what? Or it's just too convoluted. Like oftentimes they'll do these episodes where they have 3 different things mashed together and you're like trying to follow along. I'm sure we'll go back to, blowing Vince Gilligan by saying his episodes are consistently great for finding your concept, stick to it, explore it well, and then get out with a punch. Those are the best episodes. This one had a lot to go through. Like the moment where they're in Skinner's office talking about the God complex or whatever, the God module and how important he is. I'm like, we don't need any of this, but
yeah.
Okay, he's important. I think we've already established that.
Agent Spender is useless. That's his character
in this episode,
general.
Maybe he does important stuff off stage, but in this context, all we ever see of him is just getting in the way.
That's all he does for a whole season. So,
well, he's got an important dad.
And don't get me wrong, I do like Jeffrey Spender. I like the actor. I think he does a great job. But in this episode, he's just kind of a bystander because he's not steering the ship at all. He's trying to confound Mulder's work. He's taking orders from someone he doesn't know, and he's not really doing much to get anything done. He's just kind of there. Things are happening around him, and he's already decided he hates Mulder in previous episodes, so he's just going to continue down that road.
He's had reason, though. Like, I think the enmity they're trying to establish between Spender and Mulder is directly related to what happens to his mother. So, I'll buy that he considers Mulder bad news and takes everything personally. But I think the problem is that this is not the Jeffrey Spender show. This is the Mulder and Scully show. So we only get this caricature of an antagonist without really getting any backstory. Like, you've got Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man, which flesh out who the cigarette smoking man is, and lets you go, okay, now I get, why this guy is the way he is. We never get that with Jeffrey Spender. No. So he's just this stock character who, as you say, he just gets in the way. He's bumbling and ineffectual and just mean. This is not really interesting in a way that CSM is.
Agreed. I think the general consensus is that the episode, while enjoyable, just does things it doesn't need to do and kind of falls somewhere in the middle. They were probably putting as many eggs as they had to spare into the production of the movie. And Chris Carter, for all that it's worth, he has guided the show up until this point and will do so for the rest of its run. But at certain times, it's going to get very muddy. And they decide to do some things that are very, okay, why did you do that? What's the point of this?
Yeah.
Not to mention that I think they could have tied the movie into this episode a little bit better. We don't see Diana Fowley at all in the movie. We don't see Gibson Praise. Not that they need to be there, but at the same time, what Chris Carter had in his head was, okay, we got to burn down the X-Files, and then we've got our movie where they're just normal FBI agents.
Yep.
I think that's where he started, and then he fleshed out the episode somewhere. Did it fall together as wonderful as he wanted it to? Probably not.
Well, I think a better diversion, instead of just drawing for their own playbook by just redoing the end of season 1 in a sense, would be that they spend season 6 completely apart. Like, at least in season 2, there's a bunch of episodes where they are not investigating the X-Files. They are apart. Yeah, we don't even see Scully for other reasons, but it's not an instant fix like it is at the end of the movie. And it's like, hey, we got the X-Files back again. It took longer to reestablish, and perhaps more realistically longer than it would be just to patch it up again and get your show back. So,
well, I think we've beat this one to death, for better or for worse. And it is here, ladies and gentlemen, that we will put the capper onto season 5 and launch into the movie. That's right. Our next episode will be
of the end.
Fight the Future. As I stated in a previous episode, we do have a surprise for you.
Nice. Drop that in there.
I'll edit to make it sound real smooth.
It'll be fantastic. Maybe you'll even retake that.
All right. Well, that is the show. And if you would like to say goodbye, please do so.
Thanks for listening to the end of the end of the end of the end of the end.
Fade out. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilespod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming. It's that time, everyone, the Magus Media Production sales pitch. Please check out our homepage at magusmediaproductions.net so you can stay up to date on all of our shows. Check out our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/magusmediaproductions, both of which have our Discord link on it, where you can join us for live shows as we record them for future release. At Magus Media Prods on X, our Patreon, patreon.com/magusmedia, where a $5 donation will help us keep the lights on and bringing you new content, and you get some stickers. Thank you for your consideration and support.